Ladies and gentlefish, I welcome you back to New York City. Today, I am in my neighborhood where I've been living for the last month here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and we're going to be covering everything you need to know about Williamsburg here in Brooklyn. This, for those of you guys who don't know, is in part of my guide where I'm trying to cover every notable neighborhood in New York City and compile it all into a giant guide. So make sure that you subscribe with those notifications turned on so you don't miss a single video from this series. We have one thing that we have to do before we begin the guide, and that is roll the intro. Okay, I'm gonna presume that this is recording, but I'm gonna shoot a quick video clip just so you guys know before we get into this guide of what my camera situation currently looks like. I'm balancing this camera inside of a thorn bush tree with these giant spikes. I'm balancing it on a single branch. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Williamsburg Everything You Need to Know guide. Since this is a place that I've been living in for the last almost 2 months now, I want to provide you guys with a guide of the places that I've been hanging out with and the things that I think you should do while you're here. Alright, so let's start off by saying that Williamsburg is this really crazy mesh. This neighborhood that meshes the Hasidic Jewish population, which for those of you guys who don't know are like more of the very religious Jews, with hipsters. And it's a really cool and strange blend. There's a lot of attractions densely populated into one part of this neighborhood, which is kind of the more hipster area. So let's just start off with the #1 place that you need to visit. It's called Bedford Avenue. So Bedford Avenue actually runs through almost the entirety of Williamsburg, and it even reaches my area, which is like the more Hasidic Jewish populated area. But you go up Bedford Avenue like all the way towards this other neighborhood, which is called Greenpoint, which we're gonna mention a little bit later. So this would be like North Williamsburg, and it just becomes hipster paradise. There is special boutique stores and cool restaurants and, you know, a bunch of different places that you can go hang out, like cafes and vegan spots and markets, and it's a really, really cool area. So Bedford Avenue is kind of where you would want to begin your journey. It would be stop #1, just walking up and down Bedford Avenue. There's tons of stuff to see, and almost every adjacent street and avenue right next to Bedford, so Berry Street and Driggs Avenue, which also stretch out to this area, we'll have tons of stuff for you to see and do, and a bunch of the ones that we're going to mention. So I'm just gonna start listing off places that I think you should visit. So on Bedford Avenue, you're gonna have a place called Joe's Pizza. This is a super famous spot in New York City in general. They have a bunch of locations, and we've actually covered a few, I think, during these guides. But if you wanna get a slice from Joe's Pizza, I highly recommend it. It's known as one of New York City's favorite pizza. It's pretty good, it's pretty dank, if I might say so myself, and it's not gonna break the bank. It's not super expensive. So I highly recommend getting a bite from Joe's Pizza while you're on Bedford Avenue. Also, if you keep walking north all the way on Bedford Avenue, you'll eventually reach an area called MCARREN Park. MCARREN Park is a super, super cool park where next to the park, there's actually these really cool painted buses that are set up. I forgot the actual names of the buses. They're called like art buses or something. But Williamsburg has great art, street art all over the place. But as well, near MCARREN Park, it has a dog park and a baseball field, as well as like a little baseball court and like soccer fields and bathrooms and stuff. So it's a really cool place to come check out if you want some of that more relaxing park vibe when you're here in Williamsburg. And right next to the park, we have a place called the Russian Orthodox Cathedral of the Transfiguration of our Lord. I've visited Russia before, and I can 100% confirm that this church, cathedral, whatever it is really super authentic to Russia and what churches and cathedrals and stuff look like in Russia. The Russian Orthodox Cathedral of the Transfiguration of our Lord is a pretty cool spot to visit, and I highly recommend going out there and taking some cool pics of that place. Now, we're going to mention this as well. If you keep heading north from MCARREN Park in that area of the cathedral, you'll eventually enter an area called Greenpoint. Greenpoint is kind of like Williamsburg's little sister. It is another very densely populated hipstery area, and the borders, I guess, defined between Williamsburg and Greenpoint are a little bit wishy-washy. It's kind of hard to tell exactly where one starts and one ends, but there's two spots that I want to mention that are kind of on the border of Williamsburg and Greenpoint, one of them being Moe's Donuts. Moe's Donuts is this really cool spot where you can get yourself some insanely flavored donuts. I opted to get myself a Girl Scout cookie flavored donut, which was Samoa flavored, and I'm not even going to spoil by giving you guys a review. You have to check this donut place out, and the donuts were $1.65 for these massive donuts. If you want to go get some crazy donuts while you're here in Williamsburg, I highly recommend checking out Moe's Donuts. The beautiful thing about Williamsburg is from one end of Greenpoint to like the opposite end of Williamsburg, it's only about a 25-minute to 30-minute walk, and there's tons of stuff to do in the middle of all of it, so like you won't even feel, you could spend a whole day just walking back and forth throughout the different avenues here. That's basically what I did. As well as kind of on the edge of Greenpoint, you have this really cool rooftop bar called Northern Territory. This is an Australian bar that actually caters to make some sort of Australian dishes and Australian drinks. I actually went there. It said on their site that they were open at the time, but it was closed. So I can't really show you guys views from the rooftop of there, but I can show you guys views of the rooftop that I pointed to with my camera, because that's where you should be able to sit down and have some cool drinks and food while you're there. Northern Territory. I wish I had some better footage of it, but you should definitely check it out. You know, that sounds awesome, and we love Australians. So Australians are great. Oi, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. Okay, next we're gonna head back down from Greenpoint back into Williamsburg, or into more proper Williamsburg, and we're gonna head to a few places. So you have a bar called the Brooklyn Bowl. Now the Brooklyn Bowl is more than just a bar. It's also like a live music concert venue and a bar and restaurant and a bowling alley. So during the day, this place is probably mostly populated by young kids and their families going to do actual proper bowling and little restaurant seating. But at night times, especially on the weekends, they have concerts that go on there. So little shows, different musicians will come and perform there. But it's a nice place to come and chill out, especially if you're gonna do more of like a friend group outing in Williamsburg. Definitely try to hit up the Brooklyn Bowl. It is an awesome place to, you know, bowling and drinks and food always go well together, especially if you have live music thrown into the mix. So it's not something that you want to mix. I do want to make a note about the food. It was very expensive, and the specific catfish tacos that I had were not that good, and it ended up costing me like 20 bucks. So I was not very happy with the food experience. That being said, a friend of mine had told me that they do fried chicken the best, so I chose the wrong thing. But just saying that, I wouldn't go for the catfish tacos if you're... Williamsburg is probably most famous for its nightlife. It has a very, very cool, like I've mentioned many times already, there's a hipster, very hip vibe of nightlife. It's not something where you go to party like crazy, but these really, really cool bars that are set up, pop-up bars, pop-up restaurants, really cool places to just hang out at night. So if you want a laid-back but cool Saturday night, Sunday night here in Brooklyn, Williamsburg is the place to check out. As well, continuing on in Williamsburg in this area, we're gonna head on over to the Bushwick Inlet Park and the East River State Park. These are two parks that are right next to each other, and they're actually like right in front of the Brooklyn Bowl area, so you can walk right over to there. It's like literally a 2-minute walk. And what these places are just really, really cool places to come and take a look at the view of Manhattan. Because of the place of Williamsburg is situated right on the river, right in front of Manhattan, especially, you can see all of downtown and all of Midtown in this beautiful picturesque scene. These two parks are beautiful places to come check out. As well, I was seeing people just sitting down there eating lunch, and there's a cool dog park there and a playground for kids, but it's a fantastic place. So don't miss out the Bushwick Inlet Park and the East River State Park. Seriously, these were some of the best views in Williamsburg, besides where I am right now, which is just behind my house because I'm lazy. As well, heading back into the neighborhood outside of the water area, we have a place called Rough Trade NYC. Now this goes back to the hipster values of this neighborhood that I was talking about. This place is a giant, massive record store with tons of records, but it is more of like, it's less of like an old used record store and more of like new age record store with lots of new records. When I was there, Hosier, the singer, he was actually there doing a record signing, and there was a giant line outside of the store just waiting for people to come and meet him. But the record store is really cool. They have like photo booths in there and a full-on coffee shop in there as well. I think they do have a live music venue inside of the record shop, so I would just check out their website and see if they have like dates for upcoming shows and stuff like that. All right, moving on, just another block down from the Rough Trade area, we have a really, really cool place that's only open on weekends, which is called Artists and Fleas Williamsburg. Now this, for me, was an insanely cool experience. I am a super fan of markets and little mini markets and indoor outdoor markets, and so this place is a fully operating indoor hipster market here in Williamsburg. You can get yourself your clothes, you can get yourself your coffees, your records, whatever you want, they have it in there, especially if you're looking for more like boutique vintage accessories and clothing and stuff like that. They got it all over in there, so make sure you check it out. It's called Artists and Fleas, and it's only opens on Saturdays and Sundays in Williamsburg. As well, I gotta pimp out a place that I love eating. This has been my go-to place to eat in Williamsburg. I've talked about this many times before. I love poke. Poke for me is one of my favorite dishes right now. It's one of the things I eat most often. And surprisingly, out of all the places that I've been to in the United States, even more so than Los Angeles, which is supposed to have probably the best poke outside of Hawaii, I found my favorite poke spot in the United States of America. It's right here in Williamsburg. It's called The Poke. It doubles up as both a poke spot and an ice cream place, but this poke spot is awesome. The people in there are always super, super friendly, and the fish, seriously, the fish is so fresh. They just pile on the food and vegetables. They're not one of those places that charge you extra for every little thing. I highly recommend checking it out. All right, let's check out another place that's a little bit closer to Bedford Avenue. This place is called CRIF Dogs, and that might sound familiar if you guys have been watching my videos for a while because we've mentioned them. They actually have another location in the Lower East Side, I believe. That one has a speakeasy in it. The one here in Williamsburg, I don't believe has a speakeasy inside of it. It's just a hot dog place. CRIF Dogs, there's not much to say about it. It's seriously some of the best hot dogs in New York City they can get. They're super customizable hot dogs, and they have a really weird menu, but you can also customize your own hot dog and put whatever you want on it. Probably my favorite hot dog I've ever had in my life. Next, moving on, we're gonna go down to NITEHAWK Cinema. NITEHAWK Cinema is a cool movie theater. Now, their movies and the movies that they show there are not super expansive. There's not a huge list. They're not gonna be like an AMC or Regal movie theater, but it is a very cool looking movie theater with a bar in the downstairs. I wasn't able to get tons of footage, but I highly recommend that you guys check it out. If you want a cool night out in Williamsburg, you can do some drinking before and then head into the movie. And the whole aesthetic of the place looks really, really, really cool. Next, just down from NITEHAWK Cinema, we're gonna head to a place called Main Drag Music. Now, practically, if you're a tourist, this might not be the best recommendation for you to come visit because you're probably not gonna be buying tons of vintage old musical instruments, but that's what this place is. It is probably the most hipstery store in Williamsburg that I've seen. I love the vibe in there. The owners are super, super cool, very hip looking people, very cool, chilled out place where you can come take a look at a bunch of vintage instruments and stuff. They have a really cool selection of vintage ukuleles and mandolins and guitars. Next place, we're gonna head down even more south from Main Drag Music to a place called Miss Favela. Now, once again, one of those places that I checked on Google Maps said they were gonna be open, but they were closed when I went there. I don't know why that keeps happening to me here in New York, but Miss Favela is a cool Brazilian bar slash restaurant. Some place that you definitely want to check out. Once again, part of being in New York City is going to those themed bars. Next, we have ABRACADABRA Brooklyn. This is for all my vegans out there. This is the coolest vegan cafe in Brooklyn, hands down. They actually sponsored a video for me when I went vegan for 24 hours, and they're really cool. They gave me a cool meal. So check this place out if you want your vegan breakfast. They have delicious vegan coffee and a delicious vegan breakfast platter. But what I love about ABRACADABRA Brooklyn is kind of like your entranceway into the hipstery area of Brooklyn. So the next spot that you're gonna wanna check out is the Williamsburg Bridge. The Williamsburg Bridge is really cool. You can use it to walk across to Manhattan or take the train or drive or whatever you wanna do. But regardless of that, it's a really cool bridge because it's kind of like blue, teal blue. It's a really cool color as well. And it doesn't really fit in with the rest of New York. But I really love this bridge because I've been using it every day to commute into the city. So I built a special connection with you, bridge. I love you. There's this road called Broadway. Broadway like cuts across all of Williamsburg, like kind of splits the city right in half. If you pass under the Williamsburg Bridge over Broadway, it'll basically bring you into the entranceway of the hipstery area. So if you really want to feel that transition, I highly recommend going to South Williamsburg, where I'm at right now, starting in that kind of Hasidic Jewish area, getting off in Marcy Station, which is kind of the subway station here, kind of walking around in this area in a little bit, and I'm going to mention some spots that you should check out, but then walking underneath the Williamsburg Bridge, heading north on Bedford Avenue, and really feeling that transition from more residential Jewish area, passing under that bridge and just walking into this very hipstery, beautiful, like renovated area where everything feels all new, like warehouses that were just rebuilt into hipster coffee shops and boutique vintage stores, and it's really, really cool. So just a few more spots here, like I mentioned, on Broadway, which is kind of that main street that cuts and splits South Williamsburg and North Williamsburg from each other. You can check out Baby's All Right. Baby's All Right is a music venue. It is open during daytime, so it's not like always closed. It's not just a night thing, but I think it gets more lively during the night, and they have concerts there. I think every weekend they have some cool performers that come out. There's another spot that I want to mention called Domino Park. Domino Park is this really cool waterfront park as well that has these kind of like old refurbished cranes holding up this walkway that's elevated above the city, and it's another one of those spots that has a really, really great view of New York, of downtown, of Midtown. If you want to just kind of take a look at Manhattan and see it from kind of an elevated platform in Brooklyn, this is the place to check out. Domino Park is really cool, and they have great public restrooms sitting in a caravan right there. As well, we have a building called the Whalen, which also used to be the Williamsburg Bank. I forget exactly what the title of it is. It's just a really cool building. I highly recommend checking it out for cool architecture. You can't miss it, especially if you're on Broadway, so you gotta check it out. And I think our last spot for Williamsburg is going to be George Washington at Valley Forge. Now, this is a statue of our first president of the United States, George Washington, that's here in Williamsburg. There's nothing really too interesting in the area, but it is just a cool statue of our first president of the United States, George Washington. So I recommend checking it out if you want to see some history and a cool statue. Now, I want to mention a few more things about Williamsburg before we jump off to our next kind of part, because we do have a bonus neighborhood in this episode. Williamsburg, like I said, in the Jewish area of South Williamsburg, or the more Hasidic area of South Williamsburg, there's not much for you to do. Maybe if you're a Hasidic Jew coming from outside of the United States or from the United States and you want to really experience what it's like to be in a heavily Jewish area, I could kind of recommend coming and checking it out. But there's nothing really too interesting going on here. So I wouldn't really even recommend hanging out here. I would just, if you're coming to Williamsburg, head off to the hipstery north part of the neighborhood and just kind of do all your exploration there, because this is a really good venture point into different parts of Brooklyn. So a little bonus neighborhood that we're gonna throw in here. Luckily, my friend Jacob Carlson, king of the vlogs, is giving me some footage to use for this. We're gonna mention, as a side note, this neighborhood called Bushwick. Bushwick in Brooklyn is this really cool neighborhood, which is also slightly hipstery, which has some really cool bars and nightlife, as well as graffiti. That's what this place is famous for. Some really, really cool street art and some really great nightlife. You're gonna wanna get off on the Jackson subway stop here in Bushwick and just go out and explore the nightlife on a Saturday night or on a Sunday night. There's lots of cool bars and breweries to check out in this area, as well as great food spots, and they should be open all night long. It'll be much more lively on a weekend than a weekday, because I've been out there both on a weekend and a weekday. But seriously, there's just tons of really cool bars to check out. One specific one that I'll note is called Pizza Party. It's a cool place that has pizza and a bunch of really cool bar side snacks that you can have, and the vibe in there is just like Andy's room from Toy Story, so I really appreciate it for that. The graffiti and the street art in that neighborhood are absolutely off the chain, so I highly recommend checking it out. And thank you so much to Jacob Carlson, king of the vlogs, for letting me use this footage of Bushwick to show you guys this stuff, so please go check him out in the description. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be the end of our guide here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I hope that you guys come and check out this awesome neighborhood here in New York. For real, the view from here is unprecedented to anything else. You got a view of the One World Trade Center right there. You got a view of the Empire State Building right there. It's the best place to be. It's the best place to hang out. But I'm gonna go now because I am absolutely freezing. I wanna remind you guys to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single video from this channel, because we got so much more information coming out. This is just the beginnings of our Brooklyn episodes. All that will be on my channel, so please go check out those other videos. And as well, if you want to support this channel, best way to do it is buy some merchandise. It'll be on screen right now or in the description below. See you guys in the next one. My hand is absolutely frozen. I love you a long time. Goodbye, clots.